right, so last week we saw the movie Oddity, which was a huge surprise, and we're here to talk about all the spoilers.
Yeah.
We'll try to keep this shorter, but we usually are not successful. Our Long Legs one ended up being a full hour. Our Maxine one was pretty damn long as well. It just is what it is. We get chatting.
We do.
And sometimes these are long. And some people love that and some people hate it. And for those of you who hate it, there is plenty of other places to go. So, Oddity. All right, so the first thing I'm going to say coming out here is this. This will be... I'm not fully definitive on this quite yet. I would like to watch Long Legs and Oddity back to back. Because we had talked about doing that yesterday.
Yes.
We were actually going to go to the theater and see both of these yesterday again. But I am actually becoming more and more on the fence about which one I enjoyed more.
Oh, okay.
Because I think this one is just excellent in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And I just love it. And the more I think about it, the more I love it. Same thing with Long Legs. So I am very back and forth. It is hard. Like, at the end of the day, it's very arbitrary. It's like, do I care which one I like more? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares? I loved both of them so much. So that's all you really need to know. But anyway, let's talk about Oddity. Now, I am taking notes off of memory of a film we saw over a week ago in what was one of the worst theater experiences of our life and got us pretty distracted. But I think I did a pretty damn good job of taking notes. You guys be the judge. So let's start with the opening of Oddity. All right, so we got Olin, who... If you are to watch our other video where we go through and discuss the events of the prequel short that was made over a decade ago called How Olin Lost His Eye, you can find out just that. And I do think that kind of gives a little bit of character to Olin here, because that is something I'd like to discuss. So Olin shows up at Danny's door in the middle of the night to tell her that while she was out at her car, he saw someone sneak into her house. Okay, so I guess there are a couple things to discuss here when it comes to this scene. Number one, I had mentioned in our review for this, spoiler-free, that this kind of reminds me of When a Stranger Calls. You get the call, right, and it's the tension of, is there somebody in the house with you or not? Yeah. But this actually elevates it for me, because what this scene does really well is that it puts the character in an impossible situation. She's screwed either way, depending, right? So it's like, in this situation, she has someone who's outside, who's mentally unwell, right? She knows him from... She doesn't know him, but she knows that he is from her husband's mental institution.
Right.
And so, of course, she's going to think this guy's insane. But she also feels something and hears stuff. And it's like, okay, if I go outside, maybe he's working with someone. Right, to get me out.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe he has another guy on the outside of the room where he's like banging on the windows or whatever to try to coax me outside, whatever. There's so many different things that are going to be running through your head in this moment of like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Do I not listen to this guy and stay in the house with a potential threat? Or do I open up my door and expose myself to a threat that I'm pretty convinced is a threat?
Right.
Because this guy looks creepy. He's already said he's from your husband's work, which he's, somebody who is mentally unwell if he was there. So it really does put you in this impossible situation and creates this incredible, tense opening.
Yeah, it is an impossible situation, and it is very, very suspenseful, which I think that the whole film really has that tone to it of suspense. But I think it's a fantastic setup and a fantastic cold open to an extent. It's not really a cold open because it relates to the rest of the film, as far as like the character goes. Or maybe it still is a cold open. But
That's a cold open. I don't know why I said that. But
I always thought cold opens were like just like a random person that it's like the setup is like, oh, that's the killer kills like this, or this is what's happening.
But it always connects.
But
to the
I guess
story.
you're right. It does always connect.
Because like Drew Barrymore's death.
Yeah,
in
that's
Scream,
true. That's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that it's great though. Having the door like the peephole, like this like rectangle that's larger than just like a normal like peephole would be, so you can see more of the face, and it's like there's something about that also is incredibly suspenseful too.
Sure, you could like reach through and grab her.
Yeah, like there's just more of an opening than you would expect, and I love how she like is backing away and is kind of like she doesn't know what to do. It's very like damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of a thing. She's being asked to trust somebody who is a patient at a mental institution.
Yeah.
And, for him, too, like, obviously, we know that he is really trying to help her.
Yeah.
That sucks, too, because he's trying to be as genuine and non-creepy as possible, but his eye is scary. And that's not just, like, people that have false eyes are terrifying. Like, that's not what I'm trying to say. But this one in particular, the way that it's shot and the lighting makes it glow, kind of. So when he's, like, backing away into the shadows, the eye is still very prominent and very clear and, like I said, almost shining. And that's it has a very uncanny effect.
Well, most glass eyes are meant to look like real eyes.
Absolutely,
with like the same color iris and all of that kind of stuff. So this is nothing human looking, right? He purposely has something in that looks abnormal.
Yeah.
It looks freaky. So if you were trying to convince people that you are not a threat, you probably shouldn't have shown that eye. I would actually maybe even cover it up.
Like an eye patch.
I doubt he had an eye patch on him, but even just maybe like cover your eye. It doesn't matter. Of course, this is for added scariness to it.
Yes.
But yeah, so as far as like Olin's backstory, Olin is a very tragic character because he's a kid. He's just trying to potentially help out a homeless person by giving him change. He gets his eye plucked out of his head, sees something that is unimaginable, which seems supernatural. And so this, I'm sure, is what puts him in a mental institution. A freak, vagrant grabs his eye out of his face, and this would screw anybody up. So I do believe that story is canon, the short that we discussed, where Olin gets his eye snatched by an eye bulging,
I mean, I don't think that's a person. I do think that is a supernatural entity,
sure.
Which it falls in line with this movie because the events of the film are very much supernatural.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's canon too. I think it works.
But this screws him up.
Yeah.
This is what would put him in a mental institution. But then, he overhears the discussion between Ted, the husband, and Ivan, the, killer for hire. He goes and he tries to warn her. Now, why he wouldn't mention it, maybe he doesn't want to rock the boat too much. I don't know why he wouldn't say, I heard your husband paying off someone to kill you.
Yeah.
So I know why he doesn't say that for the audience, because
Right.
that's supposed to be a reveal later in the film. But why he wouldn't just divulge the information that he has, like, hey, I got released. I also heard that your husband... Now, maybe that just makes it sound... I don't think he's thinking right, though. So, like...
No, I don't either.
I don't know if he... But that's what I'm saying. I feel like he would say it.
I don't know. I think that, there's a possibility that he would think she wouldn't believe him. Like, I'm just lying to you to try and get you to come out. Like, maybe she, doesn't necessarily feel any tension or anything like that her husband would be trying to kill her.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think that he is 100% thinking clearly. And I think that in some of the scenes we get of him later in the movie, like the flashback scenes, he's very awkward and kind of shy. And, I think that's from years of being in mental facilities and being mistreated, and I don't think he really knows how to talk to people in what we would think of as like a normal way. Obviously, yes, for the point of the movie, we don't want to know that her husband is hired someone to kill her. But yeah, I love this whole opening though, you know, when he says, okay, look, like I'm gonna go up the road and find somebody, like that's also very sweet, because he's like, I don't want her to feel uncomfortable, like I am gonna try and go get help. And when she goes into the tent, especially, everything from there is just, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare.
I do want to talk about Olin a little bit more before we move into that, because the kind of callback to his first short with Olin, where he's looking through a hole.
Yes.
And this is what ends up getting his eye taken from him. He then is looking through another hole into a house, trying to help somebody. Again. And ultimately, exactly. Yeah. So him trying to help people in holes in walls does not end up going well for him, because he ends up getting himself killed unjustly.
Yeah.
Then the sister figures out, like, oh shit, I killed the wrong guy.
Super sad.
And it's like, Olin's life is terrible.
Yes.
He gets his eye snatched from him as a kid. He goes into a mental institution. While in a mental institution, he finds out that the doctor that works there is actually the crazy person who wants to murder his wife. And the guy who comes into his room at night is the guy he's hiring to do it. And then he goes to try to warn her, and all he gets for his efforts is his head crushed in.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
Olin has a horrendous life.
It's so tragic. Yeah. This scene, I mean, it's kind of jumping ahead, but since we're talking about Olin, when he is getting killed, that whole segment is great too. Like him just hearing the noise coming from out in the hall, and then going out there and being just like, by a seemingly invisible force too. Like, we don't see what does it. Which is really cool, because I do wonder if that wooden puppet is what goes there, or if she, you know, is doing something else, because I really feel like the wooden puppet is the I mean, obviously we see it walking around and moving like later in the film, but if somebody else was watching it, maybe they wouldn't see anything, because it's definitely like enchanted in some way, or cursed, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, Olin's life does suck, and I guess the moral of his story is, don't try to help people that you see when you look through a hole in a wall or a door.
I definitely believe that the wooden mannequin being possessed by this, like, you know, being controlled by Darcy is how he ultimately dies. Because because Darcy is blind, and she seems to not be able to get around on her own super well, I don't see how she could overpower and take by surprise Olin.
Yeah, I definitely did not think that she went there to kill him at all. I was more meaning, was she like projecting some energy, or was the doll there as well and we just couldn't see it? I know she's kind of projecting energy either way.
But he gets his head crushed in, and that's gotta be from the doll.
Yeah.
The doll, because I think she can see through the doll.
I do too. Yeah. Well, and so, you know, back to the beginning though, that tent scene and the mask that guy is wearing is one of the best masks that I think we've seen definitely this year in a horror film. It is so creepy, so like unnerving.
It's not practical at all though.
It's not practical at all, but it's freaky as hell.
You would have such limited sight in that thing.
Yeah.
You would have zero peripheral vision, and you would have pinholes to look through. It would not be a good way to try to kill someone in a frantic situation, because as soon as they move to the left a little bit, you're like, where'd you go? It reminded me a little bit of the mask that they used in a film that I watched last year called Vindicta. Not a particularly good movie, but it did remind me of that. Reminded me. It's like a stone statue.
Yes.
Like you would see in like Grease, something like that. Kind of reminded me of the cherub mask in Valentine,
Yeah, a
or
little
something like that.
Yeah, it has this kind of baby doll quality to it too. It's very uncanny valley, and I think that just the contrast of the stark whiteness.
Did it look like it was made out of porcelain?
Yeah, it
Is that what
did.
okay.
Yeah, it looked like very like sleek and kind of shiny.
Yeah. Okay.
Like porcelain for sure. Super cool, very creepy. When she unzips her tent and like leans out and is looking and whatever. Great tension, of course, still.
And a wonderful jump cut of
Yes.
like him outside, and then a jump cut to just the whole tent is bloody.
Yes.
Right.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Typically, I love to see the kill take place
Yeah.
and the gore and everything, but this was very unsettling to see. Like she
She
didn't
doesn't
make
get
it.
away.
She
Yeah,
didn't
like
make
she
it.
dies.
And I liked
Yeah.
that jump cut
I
of
did
like,
too.
oh man, she got brutalized.
Yes, yeah, like there's blood all over the tent. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah. So then we jump up in time, and Ted goes and visits Darcy in her Oddity shop. Ha ha ha, for the title.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Friday the 13th television series for having one of those curiosity shops.
Yeah.
Where you have all
Curio.
The Curio, there it is. Those are fascinating. We went to the Mystic Museum in Burbank. It was Burbank, right?
Yeah, in Burbank.
Yeah, definitely check that place out. That was cool. But yeah, he goes there. I'm not exactly sure what he's doing there. I don't know if he's trying to pretend just for like, he's trying to like make it look like he cares. You know what I mean? For appearance sake.
Yeah. Yes, he's definitely playing a part for sure. He's like, his whole thing is hinging on people believing that he's a good guy. But he goes there specifically to tell her that Olin is dead. At least that's what I...
okay.
So in our spoiler-free discussion, we
Yes.
talked about our theater experience, but at this point in the film,
Your sister's killer is dead. Okay.
We had a really big distraction during this dialogue, but that's what I heard. Yeah.
This was so for context here though, this was the scene where the guy was snoring so loud and I had to get up and wake him up, and the guy was like got up and was super pissed and making a bunch of noise.
And then people
so
came
this was the Oddity shop scene was the most, by far and away, the most distracted scene in the film for us because of our theater experience.
Yeah.
So that a lot of dialogue was lost there for us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that you caught that. That makes sense. That's what he's there for. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I didn't hear that at all.
And she is. It's obviously they're twins.
Yeah.
I think she looks great like this with the
my God,
short
so much
blonde
better.
hair. I mean, she's very pretty anyway, but this is like a really striking look for her.
Yeah.
And I love the location. Like, just an Oddity shop is always really cool to see all these like taxidermied animals, and like she has a which is of course. What's the word? It foreshadows what happens in the end, but she has the little like bell, the haunted bell, and she tells him the story about how like everyone that's rung it, like the last like 3 people or whatever, have been killed by a bellhop.
One thing we did not mention in our review of all of his shorts is this bell appears in one of those shorts.
It does.
So this is another connective tissue.
Yeah.
I think that was in the Haunted Library episode.
Yes.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay. So definitely check out his shorts because you got a lot of connected universe stuff going on in here.
Yeah. But I like that they set up, that he, Ted, is kind of like... He views her as sort of the crazy... And there's also dialogue in the beginning, too, when the sister is talking about Darcy, and she's like, I'm worried about her. She's supposed to have, like, check-ins and stuff, but, like, I think she's resentful. Like, she doesn't want that. So there's, like, a general air of, like, Darcy is the weird, handicapped... kind of like freak of the family, I guess.
Black sheep, yeah.
She's the black sheep, yes. And I like that, when she's talking to him, like, he's making expressions that he wouldn't necessarily be making if she could see him. Like, they're very patronizing and condescending about what she's saying, especially because it's all, like, haunted stuff, that she's talking about.
Well, an added layer to her is that she had sight, and then she had a brain tumor.
Yeah.
And the brain tumor blinded her.
Yeah.
Now, the brain tumor was taken care of, and she now is going to live. But he thinks that it is growing back because she's, talking crazy, which adds that layer of, is this happening in the film? Like, is this just she's crazy until it presents itself as like, oh no.
She's definitely not, yeah. I also like this. I think this is something that pops up in stories kind of often, but when characters don't have their physical sight anymore, their like supernatural sight is enhanced in some way because they've lost their physical sense. I don't necessarily believe that's true at all, but I think as like a plot element, like it's kind of interesting. And
sight is played with very heavily here. It's the no-eyed chick, the person who doesn't have any sight, who can see the full picture.
Right.
And it's the person with all the eyes, that can't seem to figure anything out. And then it's the guy with one eye who has inside information that he's trying to pass on to the two-eyed person. So it's all the people with vision issues that seem to see the picture clearer.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of sight gags going on in here within the story, which I really enjoy. The Olin, last thing I'll say on him is when he showed up in the film, I knew it wasn't, but he looked a hell of a lot like Alexander Skarsgård in shots for sure. And okay, so she is invited to come over at some point in the future. She, of course, I don't think she cares. I know she just kind of shows up and uses it as an excuse.
Yeah, she totally does. She's just like, I'm coming over. And, the introduction we get, because we meet Ted's new girlfriend, who...
Yana.
I really liked her character, because I think that she's very well written and very well acted. I think that, she has this resentment, and, like, she doesn't like Darcy. She doesn't really, want that kind of... she doesn't want a connection to her. She doesn't really want to stay in this house because it's like she doesn't get any cell reception and she's so far away from things, and she's kind of creeped out because she has the camera, his wife's old camera, and she found a picture. She took a picture and saw an apparition basically of his wife. So I think that she's very believable because she is kind of bitchy, but she's not a bad person. I don't feel. That was my impression. I think that she has, and then she does end up escaping. She doesn't get killed,
which I like.
Which I like too. Yeah. But when she's being antagonized by the ghost, and she's not even really being antagonized. More like the wife is trying to warn her.
Yeah.
About what's about that somebody's there and just like the danger that she's in.
So what ends up happening with all of that with Yana and bad person, I mean, it's debatable to a degree, right? But the whole idea is that Darcy needs objects to be able to read someone's history.
Yeah.
And so she steals Yana's keys. And what she gleans from those keys is that she was having an affair with her sister's husband before they broke up. But this clears her of any wrongdoing towards her sister's death.
Right.
She's like, oh no, like, you're good. You weren't
involved in the plot to kill her. Yeah.
Correct. So, ultimately, she does get away. And she ends up leaving Ted at the end of the movie. So I'm glad that the person who isn't responsible for it ultimately gets to live, but because she does do shitty things like fuck a married man, and this girl's like, she's very vengeful. It's like, you fucked with my sister, you're getting it. And I like that she traumatizes her a bit for screwing, her sister's husband. It's kind of like, you're not getting out of this scot-free.
Right.
You're not going to sleep at night very well, but I'll let you live.
Yeah, she definitely gets a little bit... retribution for sure, but I think especially because once Darcy realizes that she killed the wrong person, she's not wanting to kill a bunch of people. She only wants to kill the the person responsible for her sister's death.
Yeah.
I think that's very clear.
And she even gets her comeuppance because she kills Olin.
Yes.
And he's innocent.
Yeah.
And she ends up dying in this. And I think she's okay with that because she kind of hates herself for killing the wrong guy.
Yeah. But I do really like, when Darcy shows up unannounced, and Ted and Yana are both like, again, because she is blind and can't see them, they're like talking to each other, like they're not really talking, but they're mouthing things to each other and like rolling their eyes and looking at each other and all this stuff. And you feel kind of slimy watching that because you're like, oh, like you're just talking behind her back, and like it's rude. But I do think that a part of Darcy, like because she is kind of psychic and intuitive, I think she knows, like the impression or the impact that she's having on them by showing up like that. And the fact that Ted's like, all right, like you can stay here and I'll be at work, and leaves is a good setup to everything.
So Ted bails. Yana can't leave because the keys are taken. Why she wouldn't confront Darcy at all about the keys?
She does, kind of, to be fair. She's like, where are my keys? Have you seen my keys? And then she's like, seen, like there's that whole moment of awkward, like, what are you talking about? She definitely confronts her, and then she's just like frantically looking around the house. I liked all of that. I think it's, makes sense. And also, this is a little bit back, but when she brings, like, when Darcy shows up with that, or the chest is delivered, rather, I like that we do not see what's inside of it until it's, like, out on the table.
Yeah, when she walks out and is like,
because that is such a great... That
reveal.
Doll, like, the mannequin, the wooden mannequin is the most iconic part of the film and the scariest part of the film, too. So having that reveal being so, like... You were not expecting it to be out. Yeah,
I mean, if you somehow avoided trailers and posters, unfortunately, it's prominently displayed because it is very iconic and it sells tickets.
Yes.
Because you see that thing, but if you had seen that thing in the film first, when it's revealed, it would be way more impactful.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we see it on the poster in full display, which, as I said, it sells tickets, so, like, I get why they did it, but, God, it's something that I really wish I would have seen in the film for the first time. I had seen it.
Oh, I didn't.
Because of the trailer, because of, I didn't even watch all the trailer, but I saw it in the trailer. It's, like, prominently displayed in the trailer. It's the main focus of the trailer. Like, they almost play it like it's Annabelle or it's like Chucky or something, that the whole focus of the film is the doll. This is absolutely a top-tier doll film in the sense that, like, the doll is like secondary, but it also comes to life.
Yes.
So it does the best of both worlds. It's kind of like Annabelle meets Chucky, where you get the possessed doll with all the creepy hauntings going on around the house, and the doll isn't moving, but then it maybe looks like it kind of is moving, like in like The Boy or something. But then the doll does get up and walk around and kill people as well. So I love both aspects being played with here with it.
I do too.
And I think the look of it and the utilization of it, obviously when Yana's looking around the house and then she looks over the railing and it's looking up at her.
So scary.
That's freaky as fuck.
That's so scary.
Especially since I don't think the doll is articulated, so it shouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
It's
wood.
It's wood. So it shouldn't be able to look up.
But at the same time, it is to a point, like it does have some type of thing, like of joints.
Yeah, it can fold up
up
here, but not in the neck.
I don't know that we see that the neck can. I think the neck looks like it's just a solid piece of wood. It's scary. That shot is really freaky. And I love it.
But
yeah,
yes,
I just love it.
The neck isn't.
Yeah.
Articulated is the right word, right?
I think so. That's the word I would think of.
Yeah, I think that's right. Because like when a action figure is like fully articulated.
I think you're right. Pretty sure.
I
don't know. Are we right? Are you wrong? Is that the right word?
It's close. If it's not that word, it's a very close word. Anyway.
So the other thing too, I think especially in this portion of the film, like when we're with Yana and Darcy's like falling asleep, and after Yana stays there for the night.
Something's so creepy about her sleeping.
So she's
just kind of like, and yeah, she puts her hands.
Feels
there.
like she's in a trance.
100%.
Or like she's communing with. Because the other thing I'll say,
she's like meditating,
yes,
and like connecting.
Yeah, is that so as much as I think she's kind of controlling the doll or the mannequin, she talks about how, like, she gives us the backstory that like her great grandmother or somebody received this as like a wedding gift that was like cursed or made by a witch. So I do think that like there is an entity attached to the mannequin that she can invoke to do things for her.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't think it's just that she like projects into the body. I think that she has like a deal basically. Anyway, what I was going to say.
So you don't think she's asleep?
No.
You think?
I think she's like meditating or in a trance.
You think she's trying to like control the doll?
I think she's like communing
that makes perfect
with
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I agree.
But I love this whole segment because like the house is dark and Yana is like, very uncomfortable, like when she goes out to the bathroom, and all of that I think is very atmospheric, very creepy. And then in particular when she's in bed and she has the camera and she's like looking through it, this is something we talked about when we reviewed this director's short films, but he has a really great use of like these repetitive behaviors that the audience knows is leading up to something like a jump scare. Or something creepy coming on screen. And I just think that he sets up those scares so well because she's like looking through the camera and then looking at the door. And I was very unsettled by this.
This reminded me of the scene in the first Insidious movie when he's looking through the viewfinder and changing the like lens. Very good. Very, very clever, very well shot, very well done. It's not something we haven't seen before, but it's all about execution. And Damien and McCarthy's execution on his direction in this film is just flawless to me.
Is it Yana? So when we get the shot, I'm trying to remember if it's Yana that sees this or if it's Darcy, but I thought it was Yana.
Well, Darcy can't see.
I know, but like... like a vision. Maybe it is Yana then, but where we see, because I think she's watching the videos. Yeah, it's her. It's Yana. She's watching the videos of Ted and his wife in the tent, and she's like, he doesn't like it because it's cold, and like we see that played a couple times, and then the next time or one of the times she turns it on and it's dead ex-wife, and she's like, run, or whatever it is that she says. That's okay. So that's Yana. Sorry.
Of course.
I was just trying to remember where that happened in the film because I wasn't sure if Darcy had like a vision of it.
I also like when she looks in the back of the head and it's like a bowling ball. It has a bunch of deep holes dug into it, and then she starts plucking them out one by one. You got like a vial of blood, you've got hair, you've got pictures, and then just like it's all tense. She's looking at all this stuff, and then this voice breaks the silence of like, put that back.
Oh, so creepy. And Darcy's just standing up
now,
looking at her.
If she did not put that stuff back, she would probably lose control of the doll.
I think so.
So
because all
if
of
she
those
didn't
things,
listen to her and took him out, then Darcy would kind of be fucked.
That's all like a spell.
Yeah, exactly.
Specifically tying it to revenging her sister's killer.
So each hole specifically demands a specific item.
Yes.
Like, because there's multiple pictures of them, but like one's when they're kids and one's when they're like adults. Right before her death. Yeah. And then there's hair.
Yeah, blood.
There's a vial of blood. Whose blood? Darcy's?
Probably. An offering.
I would assume it's Darcy's blood. Or maybe it's Olin's. Yeah. No. Her sisters. You don't think
it would be.
It would be her because she's the one controlling.
And because
the doll.
they're twins too, I think there's like that connection as well, right? Like they're related by blood.
What's the fifth thing? Is there a fifth thing? There is. There's 5. There's 5 holes to my memory.
Was it teeth?
There's 2 pictures. It is. It's one tooth.
It's a tooth?
It's a tooth.
Right?
Whose tooth?
I don't know. It's a good question.
If it's her blood, it's probably her tooth.
Could be her tooth.
You think she pulled her own fucking tooth?
Totally possible. And then where does Yana find the keys? Is it in his mouth?
No, in the chest.
That's right, in the chest.
That he comes in.
The chest.
Yeah.
Because she does look in the mouth.
When I say the chest, I mean the thing
Sorry, yeah, not
came
not
in, not
the
the mannequin's chest.
Because that's another scene though when she's like looking in the mouth and she's like kind of reaching her hand. That's the same again with some of the shorts. Has the same feeling of like, don't do that, don't put your hand in there.
But nothing comes of that.
Nothing comes.
That's
of
just when she yells, "Put it back," or no. There's nothing.
No,
in
it's
there.
when she pulls out the tooth, the last thing.
Okay,
yeah.
but she.
But then she puts everything back.
Nothing's in the mouth.
Nothing's in the mouth.
Nothing happens with the mouth.
But she puts everything back. Yeah. So, but she does it in a very, she's very disgusted and just like, what? Like, I don't want anything to do with this. I think that makes sense to me that she would put everything back because she's already been seeing like apparitions. She's been seeing all this weird stuff. I don't think she wants to mess with anything like witchy. Yeah. And she instantly is like, this is some stuff that I'm not going to be involved with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I like also that the movie opens with her, with Danny, playing with this open trap door and putting the cover back on it, and that's what ends up getting her sister killed later in the film. So it's like foreshadowing for this trap. What is that for? In a house?
It looked like it went into like a fireplace or something.
No, she just falls down into like some like little room below that's connected to the living room.
Yeah, I thought it was a fireplace for some reason.
Definitely not.
I don't know. I have no idea what that would be there for. Maybe laundry? Like a laundry chute? But it's not a chute. It's just an open... I have no idea. I mean, this is definitely an old house in the UK, so maybe... there's something to that. I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's some purpose to it, but I have no idea what the purpose is.
It's such an interesting house because it's like you've got the driveway in the center, and then the house is kind of like short and narrow, but like encompasses the whole drive in the center.
I have to say, I like whenever I see the house from outside, like my brain can't fit everything into it.
No.
I keep thinking like they're just in one half of that. Like they're because it is like a U shape.
Yeah, there's like two other sections of the house we never see.
Okay, I was gonna say because I'm like they're just in this one part.
They're
like
on
the rest of it is not renovated or anything.
The right
yet.
side of the narrow, straight away, and then the whole rest of the house is completely disconnected. Whether or not that's the actual interior of that place or not, I don't know. But we are completely disconnected from the other two halves of the house. It's a very bizarre house. I've never seen anything quite like it. Outside of that one movie we watched, that found footage film with the girls who were like YouTubers and they were
again
like,
in the UK.
Anarchy,
I think this is very like these old houses. I mean, especially with because I've seen them in like period pieces, where they had like this big yard where I assume like maybe some like livestock were and such. I don't know.
I have no idea.
But it is very interesting and
But anyway, I just thought it was interesting that we start with the sister opening and closing that, and then that's what ends up getting Darcy killed ultimately. And the reason she confronts him is because she realizes that she doesn't want to kill him because she would have lost all surprise there. If he was to come at her, she'd be kind of fucked, right? And ultimately, like, the doll wouldn't be able to kill him, but she does have a contingency plan, which we will discuss, of course, in the end, and that's also a backup.
Yeah.
But she has to be able to control this doll, which I think she can do at any time. She just kind of wants the confession out of him. But she wants him to be arrested. She wants his life ruined. She wants him to lose his house, his girlfriend, because he kind of killed her for all that stuff. It was like, I don't want to deal with her anymore. It's too hard to get a divorce.
Crazy.
That's too messy.
Yeah, and Ivan, the nurse or whatever, he's scary too because he's like, what if I rape her?
Yeah,
like,
and he keeps pushing.
He's like, wouldn't that just be okay then? Like, but he even asked him, he's like, why not divorce her? Like, why do you want to kill her?
Yeah.
And he's a bad guy. Like, he's like, I'm fine killing her, but why do you want to do it? Crazy to be like, I just am tired, like I sunk all this money into the house and like I don't want to be with her anymore. And his reasoning being she couldn't live without me.
Oh my god.
That's like why he's like, what he says is like she wouldn't be able to handle a divorce, like she can't live without me is crazy.
But that's
so insane.
That's ultimately his downfall. Is his arrogance.
Yes.
Right? Because I mean, jumping ahead to the end because we're talking about that, but his arrogance is his undoing. Yeah. It's not only what leads him to the events that lead up to his death, but the contingency plan is contingent on him having the arrogance to ring the bell.
Right.
Because it's kind of
Right.
like, yeah, whatever. Even after everything that happened,
Yeah.
he's still like, nah.
I love it. I love that ending with him, and I love that the bellhop is behind him, and he because he looks around and can't see anything, but it's great because it's just like,
and he thinks he wins.
Yeah, he thinks he wins, and he doesn't, which is, of course it's sad because Darcy does end up dying, but like as we had said, she kind of maybe wants to, and she pays for killing Olin, of course.
Yep.
So it does kind of balance itself out, but when he's being chased around the house by the wooden mannequin,
Ivan.
Yeah, when Ivan that is like some of the best like horror movie footage that we've seen this year for sure. It is so freaky, and it's so like it's just so unrelenting.
Yeah.
Like he jumps down, it starts walking back down, like it's just gonna come after him like indefinitely.
But the gaslighting that Ted does on Darcy after she's kind of called him out for all this, and he's like, you have a brain tumor, and, I'm going to get the prosecutor on the line, and I don't get any reception here, which sets up the reception thing once again, which is a smart use of reception. It's like so many different ways of using that in a movie. It's not just because the cell phone doesn't work. It adds a lot of reasoning behind so many different things in the film, so really cool there. But yeah, he like is like, all right, and he slowly opens that thing up, but we don't even see it until it cuts back to it, and we see that it's open. It's like, this son of a bitch.
Evil.
And she falls for it.
She
literally
does. I know, you think like maybe she won't, because he puts the phone on the other side and is like, pick it up when it rings, and just him calling and her not answering and him smiling because he's like, I won, like time to go send Ivan to clean up.
But he doesn't know. That's
doesn't.
why he sends Ivan, because it's like, who knows if she went and got the phone?
Yeah.
She never answers. She could have left. She could have, she might not even be there.
Now, I had said that the mannequin, the wooden man, would have chased after Ivan indefinitely, but obviously the reason that Ivan survives is because Darcy dies. So I think, she dies before she can fully kill him.
Oh, yeah. He's attacking.
Yes.
And the mannequin is attacking him, and then she kind of goes out.
But
good thing is...
Yeah, Ivan still gets his comeuppance.
He sure does. So that actually plays a little bit when it's shown. I'd have to watch the film again, but my memory of this is that we think for some of the movie that maybe that's the killer. That the cannibal there is the actual killer. That there's some suspicion around him. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, no. That's just going to be the killer of Ivan later in the film. And there's nothing worse than, in movies, there's this scene in Silent Night, which is like a Silent Night, Deadly Night remake, sort of. This guy, the killer, throws a chick into a wood chipper, but feet first. Which it's like, dude, please head first.
Yes,
you don't want to go feet first. That's the worst way to go. And with this guy, Ivan, the cannibal comes in, he releases him into his room, and he just starts eating his toes.
Awful. This is, after watching the shorts, too, this is Hungry Hickory.
Yeah.
This is your feet exposed, are very vulnerable, very
call.
Ticklish or whatever, and then, when somebody starts eating them, it's awful. I'm glad he gets eaten alive, though. He's awful.
You think he raped her?
Yes.
Probably.
I think he probably
He's
did.
so insistent on it.
He's so what if I just did it, though?
It's shouldn't she be raped?
Yeah, he totally did it.
Because that's part of his payment.
Yes,
if you want me to kill her, I'm raping her.
Yeah, and he even is I went to the Oddity store, imagine my surprise when I see, your sister's twin or whatever. He's kind of...
He's I thought I saw a ghost, which is actually a great way of describing that, because she has this, stark white hair.
Yeah,
and,
she does look kind of
and then her
ghost.
eyes are dead.
Yeah.
No, that's great, actually.
Great,
it is her ghost.
Yeah. But he's also, he says it in a way that feels kind of a little accusatory towards Ted, but also he seems kind of turned on by it. That was sort of the, impression I got. Oh, there's another one. Anyway, but...
That actually makes me like the film even more. That she looks like the ghost version of his dead wife because of her like
her whiteness.
white out features. Wow, I didn't even think of that in the moment for some reason. But now that I'm thinking about that she literally looks like a ghost of his wife coming back for the vengeance on him.
Yeah.
Is fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, and then, I mean, we kind of talked about the ending a little, but he burns... He tells Ivan that he burned the wooden mannequin.
Yep.
And then, yeah, like his cockiness, as you said, his arrogance, is what ends up being his ultimate demise, which is great. And I think that the film, kind of like with his wife's death, we don't see the aftermath, or rather, we do see her aftermath, but we don't see the kill happen. But we know that he's dying.
Dead. He's dead.
And
for sure,
it's great. This. I really want more films in this universe. Like, I just think that it would be so cool to expand upon this.
Yeah, I mean...
Not necessarily like a sequel to this, because I think the story is finished, but just more films in the universe that this is set in.
Well, sure, because we get to see the bunny.
Yes.
From Caveat.
Yeah.
So it is, in my opinion, 100% set in the same universe. And I think that from what we've seen from his shorts and these movies, that he is definitely going to continue to make movies like this. I don't know how well financially this did, because I can tell you, while Longlegs is going to take in like at least $70 million, at least, this got pulled from theaters pretty quickly. Yeah. Like, when I checked, there was literally only one showing last night at midnight.
Yeah.
And every other showings were just like, every theater had like one showing of this thing, and then Longlegs had like 15 showings at every theater.
Longlegs is getting so much attention, but every like review that I'm seeing of this, people are loving this film.
Such a shame that this is not getting more love. This should be getting just as much money and attention as Longlegs.
It just is like the timing of the release, unfortunately, because it coincided with Longlegs, and Longlegs had such a fantastic marketing campaign. That's where the struggle is. If both of them had been released with no marketing campaign, I think that people would have been seeing both equally.
But if I was... Okay, but the last thing I'll say on this is that when it comes to those two films, it does bum me out. It's exciting in one way, but on the other side, because I'm stoked that Longlegs is having the success it's having, obviously. I love the film. But of the two films... Which one is more for like the common mainstream audience? If I was to recommend this or that, and I would think it would hit better, Oddity is 100% more of a film for everyone. Longlegs is for more of a niche audience. As to where this Oddity is really in the kind of the middle. It plays both sides. It feels kind of like indie art house to a degree, but it has just enough going on in it to feel kind of like a classic Hollywood horror film as well. So I think it's a perfect blend of both. It's like the Blumhouse and the A24, as to where Longlegs feels like just A24, or it's neon, obviously, but it feels more of that art house indie kind of style, as to where this kind of blends both really well. It balances them perfectly. So it's odd to me that Oddity is not the one that's blowing up the box office right now, because it's the one that's more catered to a bigger audience.
Yeah. The other thing, though, is that, I mean, as I'd said, not only because of the marketing for Longlegs, that's really gotten people's attention, but the film itself has elements in it that are being like turned into memes and becoming like kind of part of the
Longlegs
pop culture. So it is lending itself more to like people wanting to watch it because they're hearing like, or they're watching some TikTok that's using a sound from there, or people are referencing like some of the lines that are very memorable lines, very like specific to the movie. And Oddity doesn't have anything like that. Oddity is a very classic horror film in that sense. But they're both wonderful. They're both, I mean, I agree with you. I feel like we need to watch them back to back, but I think it's going to be really hard to try and pick between which one is like the better film, because they both just have so much going for them. But
nah, Longlegs is yours for sure. She talks about that movie so much. She sends me like 5 TikToks of the movie every day.
Yeah. So it's great.
So, Anyway, that's that. Oddity. What'd you guys think? Any things that we missed? Any things that we said wrong in your opinion? The articulated, is that the right word?
Yeah. Articulated joints, limbs.
Yeah, that's right.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. That's that. Nothing more?
Nothing more.
Okay. We'll see you in the comments.
Bye.